There's an eclipse today. And while many are really excited, a lot of people are scared. Instead of the word eclipse, they hear the word apocalypse. Let's start with the date. We all know April 8th is the date of the eclipse, but it's not just any eclipse. It is one of the darkest eclipse and fullest eclipse we've had in a long time. And that date, April 8th, is important to a lot of the people that think that this eclipse may just be the apocalypse. You see, April 8th is the 120th anniversary of when Aleister Crowley was in contact with the being known as IWAS. IWAS was actually a voice that Aleister Crowley heard while he was on vacation in Cairo, Egypt. According to this voice was from ancient Egypt and was a god or the fraction of a god. We could dive more into this in its own video if you want. Let me know in the comments below. The point is, Aiwass led, or I guess spoke to Aleister, the words of the Book of the Law, which Aleister Crowley made. The Book of the Law is an occult book that many religious people categorize as satanic or demonic, as it was written by Aiwass and not by Aleister himself, and they claim that Aiwass was a demon. Aleister himself said that when he first heard Aiwass, Aiwass came from over his left shoulder in the darkest recesses of the room. There was no body. He said it was just a detached voice, and he says that he now believes, or he now believes because he passed away, that intelligence was disconnected, discorporeal, not a part of the human body, and it can exist on its own. When dictating the book, Aleister said Aiwass was beyond human, and he had alien intelligence and phenomenal astuteness. Like, he could see things that hadn't happened yet. He said, Aleister said that he can't be Aiwass because people were like, oh, you made it up in your head. He goes, no, this thing was smarter than me. Aleister himself said that he couldn't write half the stuff that he wrote in the book because he had no knowledge of it. He even claimed that Aiwass had extensive, extreme, and advanced knowledge of the Kabbalah, and many more things. And because Aiwass knew information from religious aspects and had him rewrite a book called the Book of Law, which is in and of itself a religious text, many see it as blasphemous in almost every religion. So many see this thing as a demon, while some see it as some form of advanced intelligence, or maybe a alien. And again, some even say it's an interdimensional being. But on the other hand, like I said, many believe Aiwass was a demon, and that Aleister Crowley is the father of Satanism, and that Aiwass gave him this ability to start this dark and demonic evil religion. So a lot of people are in fear that this eclipse, with everything going on, is actually a ritual to re-summon the entity known as Aiwass. But what kind of ritual is this? We can't just reach into space or into another dimension and bring a being in, right? Well, that's where CERN comes in. CERN is the European Organization for Nuclear Research. It is also the home of the Large Hadron Collider, which is an advanced technology that we use to smash atomic particles together in order to find the God particle. Which, if I were religious, I'd be like, that sounds kind of blasphemous. But according to scientists, we're looking for the God particle because we're trying to really find the building blocks of life. With scientific theories claiming that we can find gravitons and create mini quantum level, of course, not major, quantum level black holes, it's no wonder there's a lot of mystery surrounding the Large Hadron Collider. The Large Hadron Collider has actually been tied to many paranormal theories, including the Mandela effect. And what's wild about the Mandela effect and CERN theory is that it's not without evidence. As Sally Field, one of the main big players in the Mandela effect, because about 2 or 3 Mandela effects happened pertaining to her. Well, her brother is one of the leads at CERN for the Large Hadron Collider. So there's a lot of theories that connect her brother, the Mandela effect, and CERN together. And if you want to learn more about that, leave a comment below. We can make a full video about it. According to a large number of people, the Large Hadron Collider actually opens portals to other dimensions, and it creates many voids, many black holes, which UFOs come through. The Large Hadron Collider has actually also been blamed for the end of the world in 2012. Many believe that the world did end in 2012 as the Mayans predicted, and that it ended because of the Large Hadron Collider. They even claim that what happened is when the particles smashed together and the world ended, we hopped into another dimension, and we just keep hopping every time that these particles smash, our world is destroyed, and we hop into one that is left over, the remnant. We just jump over to that one because all of these worlds are parallel, so very, very similar. However, there are some things different, which then would account for the Mandela effect. Right? There's a lot going on with CERN, the Large Hadron Collider, our memories, the black holes. I mean, I could go on and on and on. So, yeah, there's a lot of theories, but why are people scared now? Well, not only is the Large Hadron Collider's layout underground, 3 giant 6s looping on each other, already sending the religious people on a frenzy, CERN also plans on reactivating the Large Hadron Collider, which has been dormant since they apparently took it down for repair in 2013. Well, they're finally planning to start it up again, according to sources online, on April 8th, on the eclipse, at 3:33 p.m. at the peak of the eclipse's totality. Many, again, are seeing this as CERN firing up the Large Hadron Collider as a ritual. Many have noted, as I mentioned, that the last time a ritual like this was done by the Large Hadron Collider was in 2012, when the world was supposed to have ended. And whether you believe that the world has ended or not, there has been an extreme spike in UFO sightings ever since then. And many theorize that it's because CERN, when smashing the particles together, opened up these many black holes, and the UFOs were able to come in through the void. So this is leading people to believe that CERN is going to use LHC to open up a portal on the eclipse to let IWAS back into the world. But truly, guys, this is all a coincidence, right? It's got to take more than just the Large Hadron Collider to do a global ritual, right? Enter NASA. I doubt I even have to explain what NASA is to you guys on this channel. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration. These are the suckers that monopolize every aspect of space before we can even travel up there. Well, guys, they're up to something on the eclipse, and many people think it is in conjunction with what is happening over at CERN. To complete the ritual, according to theorists, NASA will be launching 3 rockets into the shadow of the moon, also at the peak of totality of this solar eclipse. Oddly enough, these rockets are named APEP, after the ancient Egyptian god of darkness and disorder. Yes, these rockets are named after evil serpent deities, and it's leading to a lot of concern at what exactly is going on during this eclipse. I mean, the fact that the rockets are named after a deity from ancient Egypt, which is where I was claimed to be from, doesn't really help, does it? A serpent god or demons by another book being launched into the shadow of the moon while the 666 Large Hadron Collider smashes particles together to find the God particle at 3:33 p.m. on a solar eclipse, the darkest we've had in a long time. I mean, come on. It's like they set themselves up for these theories. Or they're true. But if they were true, wouldn't there be signs? Many argue that the world today is a sign, with many theorists pointing out all of the major tragedies that have recently been occurring. Some have gone as far as attaching the heinous act of what Hamas did and the abhorrent retaliation by the IDF to be a part of the ritual. Personally, I would not trivialize the plight of the innocent Israeli and innocent Palestinians that are caught in between a war of two governments, but there are people that are making that connection because they are scared. And as creepy as it sounds, again, I wouldn't do this. I don't believe that aspect of it. Um, but I can see why people are scared and why they're putting these things together. I mean, it's a theory and it's a creepy one. Many have also noted that this year we have had more planes falling out of the sky and more plane accidents than we had in full previous years before. And like, we're only in April, and like, how many Boeing planes have fallen out of the sky? Many are like, what the hell is going on? We haven't had planes just falling left and right like this before, and we've been flying planes for how long now? Which is another thing that's insane. Others have been tying in these natural phenomenons or natural disasters into the theory, saying that it's very possible that the earthquake, the strongest earthquake in 25 years that happened in Taiwan, and the earthquake that happened right after in New Jersey, New York, are also tied into this ritual, saying that there has to be a large amount of human sacrifice, and all of these things together are what's going to be the sacrifice for this upcoming ritual. Now, a full-on eclipse apocalypse is a scary thing, but is it real? All of these are compelling arguments, and honestly, when there are so many coincidences, sometimes it seems like a conspiracy. But are we really doomed? Are CERN, NASA, IWAS, and UFOs gonna end the world? Honestly, I don't know. But I don't think so. What I can say is that we can explain a lot of these events and a lot of these coincidences as the opportune time for science, right? Because it truly is. A eclipse is very rare. Such a full eclipse, such a dark eclipse for a extended amount of minutes, it is not days, it is very rare, and it is the opportune time for us to run experiments. It is the opportune time for NASA to jump up there and see how the shadow of the moon affects the atmosphere, how it affects the winds, because we do know that it does affect the winds. We've seen it, we just don't know how. So there's really no better way to test this than the moon's shadow, the darkness. And that darkness of the moon, that darkness of the moon's shadow, is what led to the name APEP, not the other way around. We like to use ancient deities and ancient names to name our current technologies. For scientists and for curious minds, it's kind of a way to see how far man has come from our ancient belief of this APEP being this darkness entity, and that's why night comes, to us knowing, no, the sun goes down and the moon is there, and like the eclipse, like these things have meanings, and they're not some god doing it. It is just the way that the celestial bodies are aligned. Now that said, to our religious people, does that mean God didn't align the celestials or the celestial bodies? No, we don't know what the hell's going on. But as far as these ancient cultures and ancient religions and what we have going on now, again, it's very much like, hey, we're launching to the moon into the shadows. God, in ancient times, we were scared of the shadow. We were like, feared this god named APEP. Like, it's super cool. Let's name the rocket APEP, the god of darkness, to launch it into the darkness. It's very symbolic. Again, just very much where we were versus where we are now. It is truly the story of our progression. Now, as for CERN, I genuinely can't explain some of the things that happen with CERN. Like, I can't explain the Mandela effect, or the UFO spike since CERN turned on, or the Field siblings and their connections to CERN and the Mandela effects. I can't, but I can tell you that the eclipse thing is not really a mystery, and it's not really accurate. While technically CERN shut down the Large Hadron Collider in 2013 for repairs, CERN has been active since. It's not like CERN shut down and hasn't been working. CERN works all of the time. And as for the equipment turning on during the eclipse, this is also false. CERN actually turned on their equipment last month because their winter break was over. So all the workers came back and just switched everything back on. Everything at CERN is already turned on. They didn't wait for the eclipse. There was no like, ooh, major conspiracy like the eclipse is going to happen. They just kind of went back to work, and they decided for the specific date of the Large Hadron Collider to be the eclipse, to kind of commemorate the eclipse and just make it a big event, but also to see if the energy shift between the moon and the sun and the magnetic fields, because it does happen during the eclipse, see if that has any effect, or if it changes any of the experiments, anything happening in the Large Hadron Collider or at CERN. And I mean, there's really no other time to test this except for when it actually happens. So they kind of have to test it during an eclipse to see what's happening during an eclipse, right? Like, yeah, it's a strange coincidence, but again, it's an opportune time for science. As for Aiwas, well, there's a whole other theory that his name means AI was, and so that's spelling out that AI will be the end of humanity. But I don't know. Genuinely, I can't explain Aiwas. Really, no one can, except for Alistair. And he's been dead for decades. And it's very possible Alistair Crowley was just crazy. Though it is a little bit weird because Aiwas was privy to things we didn't know. So could he have been another entity? I mean, could Alistair have also studied X, Y, or Z and known these things and not told anyone? And then just been like, a voice told me, to kind of add to his crazy religion? Yeah, it's very possible. But if Aiwas was real, I doubt he's going to show up anywhere outside of Egypt, as that's where Alistair has to travel to hear the voice, and that is where Aiwas said he was from. So even if he's like a ghost or a spirit of sorts, I think he's like in Egypt. So generally speaking, I think we'll be just fine after the eclipse. But I could be wrong. Only time will tell. I mean, depending on when you're seeing this video, the eclipse may have already happened. So let me know in the comments if you're still alive. All I can say for certain is that with the Large Hadron Collider starting up again today, we may see an increase of UFO sightings. So don't forget, y'all, keep looking up.